There are moments in life when everything on the outside looks exactly the same, but something inside feels different. Cancer may have been sensing this over the past few days. A heartbeat that feels slightly faster, a thought that keeps looping in the back of your mind, a feeling that's hard to name, as if life is quietly preparing to shift without telling you when. It's not anxiety, and it's not quite excitement either. It's more like standing in front of a door and realizing your hand is already resting on the handle. Sensitive souls like Cancer often feel change before anyone else does. Not through logic, but through emotion, through intuition, through the body itself. And tomorrow, January 11th, 2026, is not a day meant to pass like any other. Rare movements in the sky are coming together, quietly, precisely, with enough force to create a turning point. Not loud, not dramatic, but strong enough to change the direction of someone who is willing to listen. If you are a Cancer and you find yourself here right now, there's a good chance this message is calling your name. So let's begin with why tomorrow is unlike any other day, and why Cancer's intuition is speaking louder than ever before. Jupiter is in Cancer, and for those who understand the language of the universe, this is not just an astrological detail. It is a confirmation, a quiet acknowledgement that the emotional journey you've been walking through all this time has never been meaningless. Cancer is the sign of nourishment, of memory, of home, of everything that doesn't seek attention yet endures through time. When Jupiter enters this space, and does so at its strongest, the universe doesn't bring loud luck. It brings expansion from the inside, in places few people can see, but that ultimately shape an entire life. Cancer's luck during this period doesn't arrive like a sudden windfall, or a moment of temporary chance. It arrives more like a gentle hand resting on your shoulder, quietly telling you that you no longer have to carry everything on your own the way you once did. All the unseen effort, the patience, the times you put others before yourself, are being gathered, stored, and prepared to return to you in a form that lasts. It may show up as a deeper sense of inner peace, the feeling that you are finally moving in the right direction, or a financial opportunity that comes not from risk but from trust. Jupiter in Cancer expands the very definition of wealth. Wealth is not just money. It's the sense of safety you feel when you close your eyes at night. It's knowing there is a place you belong, no matter how much the outside world changes. It's the ability to remain soft in a society that grows harder by the day. For Cancer, money and emotion have never been separate. When emotions are cared for properly, money naturally finds a place to flow. When the inner world is healed, financial decisions become clearer, without force, without strain. During this time, some of you may begin to recognize your true value, not through praise, but through how others treat you. Not through numbers, but through trust. You may notice you're being given more responsibility, listened to more carefully, seen as a source of stability rather than the quiet one who always sacrifices. This is Jupiter expanding your position in the world, in a way that is deeply Cancer, deeply human, and deeply real. What is built from the heart under this influence tends to grow slowly, but it is very hard to break. A relationship rooted in sincerity. A financial plan based on real needs, not greed. A form of work that allows you to care for others without losing yourself in the process. This is not luck meant to be spent quickly. It is luck meant to be kept, passed on, used as the foundation for a steadier, stronger life. And most importantly, Jupiter in Cancer reminds you that you don't need to become someone else to be worthy. You don't need to be tougher, colder, or less emotional to succeed. Your empathy, your care, your ability to sense what others miss are exactly what the universe is amplifying now. The world needs people who know how to nurture, how to keep the flame alive, how to create spaces where others feel safe enough to be themselves. But no matter how abundant luck becomes, it still needs somewhere to land. Water, no matter how plentiful, requires a wide enough basin or it simply overflows and disappears. And as Cancer begins to feel this expansion more clearly, a natural question quietly arises. Is your current life stable enough to hold what is coming? Do the structures you live within, your work, your habits, the way you treat yourself, have enough room for this abundance to stay? The current is growing stronger, and so is the feeling inside you. And just as you begin to realize how supported you truly are, another force in the universe starts to awaken, ready to ask a very practical question. What will you do with all of this, and how will you choose to build from here? As that current becomes more clearly felt within Cancer, another kind of energy slowly comes into view. Not loud, not forceful, but unmistakable and impossible to ignore. It's the realization that you are no longer here just to wait. A quiet clarity begins to rise. An understanding that what is approaching is not meant to be admired from a distance, but to be touched, claimed, and brought into real life. At this point, Cancer is no longer guided by emotion alone. Will begins to speak, and with it comes a very real, very grounded push forward. The Sun and Mars stand on the same side now, like two flames igniting at once. One flame illuminates who you are, where you stand, and what you truly want. The other urges you to rise, to move, to do what needs to be done, even before everything feels completely certain. For Cancer, this is a rare alignment. You're used to feeling first, then acting later. But now, feeling and action begin to merge, no longer in conflict, no longer pulling in opposite directions. Jupiter's resources are still there, quiet, steady, and abundant. But the Sun and Mars make it clear that waiting alone is no longer an option. They place a gentle question in front of you, one you cannot step around. If life is preparing to give you more, are you willing to change the way you live so you can actually keep it? If a door opens, do you have the courage to walk through it instead of standing still in hesitation? Not because you fear failure, but because you fear outgrowing the version of yourself you've known. During this phase, Cancer may feel a strong inner pull toward action, not to prove anything, not to compete, but simply to know, within yourself, that you showed up fully. Many Cancers will notice themselves becoming more serious about the long term, paying closer attention to the structure of daily life, how money is earned, how energy is conserved, where boundaries need to exist. Things once delayed out of fear of disappointing others are now revisited with a different kind of maturity. Not colder, but clearer. Mars brings Cancer a very specific kind of strength. Not the strength of attack, but the strength of endurance. The ability to work steadily, to stay the course, to keep moving forward even when no one is watching. And when that strength is illuminated by the Sun, Cancer begins to see their true worth. No longer needing permission to shine, no longer shrinking to fit the expectations of others. At this moment, the universe is not asking whether you deserve what's coming. That question was answered long ago, through everything you've endured, everything you've cared for, everything you've given. The only question now is space. Space in your schedule, in your mind, in the way you treat yourself. If luck arrives but your life is still crowded with worry, old habits, and self-doubt, it won't stay long. But if you clear enough room, organize what matters, and lay a solid foundation, what arrives will have somewhere to live and a chance to grow with you. This is the moment Cancer learns to hold both heart and discipline. To be gentle with your feelings, while remaining serious about your future. To listen to fear, without letting fear make the decisions. To know you have the right to feel safe and the right to be ambitious. And as those two truths begin to walk side by side, a new image of you quietly takes shape. More grounded, more at ease, and far more ready for what has been moving toward you all along, waiting for the exact moment to step into your life. And right in that moment, when everything seems ready, the atmosphere begins to shift. Not loudly, not dramatically, but in a way that makes your heart sink for just a second, as if an invisible hand is gently, yet firmly, placed against your back, guiding you forward. Staying where you are no longer feels possible, and pretending that everything is still fine, just as it was, no longer feels comfortable either. The energy now is no longer just supportive. It becomes a kind of awakening pressure, a very specific tension where every direction asks you to be more honest with yourself. Inside Cancer, emotions that were once postponed begin to speak more clearly. Things that were ignored out of fear of disruption refuse to stay quiet any longer. What once felt like safety, like a protective shell, suddenly becomes the central question. Is this sense of safety truly nourishing you, or is it simply keeping you still? Relationships begin to reveal themselves with striking clarity. No arguments are required. No dramatic events need to happen. You look at the person in front of you and suddenly understand what brought you together in the first place, and whether that truth still holds now. Values that were once compromised for harmony, for responsibility, for routine, become harder to swallow than ever before. Cancer's heart has always been sensitive, but now it is no longer sensing only through emotion. It is sensing through a rare kind of clarity, not cold, but no longer vague. A balancing force quietly appears, like a scale placed between two choices. On one side, the familiar ground, where you know every corner, every risk, every small comfort. On the other, a version of yourself you've sensed for a long time but haven't fully stepped into. The version that knows how to speak its needs. The version that no longer apologizes for having feelings. The version that understands that maturity doesn't mean losing softness, but learning where it truly belongs. The hardest part right now is not the big decisions. It's the small, deeply human ones. Choosing not to avoid a necessary conversation. Choosing to admit that you are tired. Choosing to stop staying where you are no longer nourished. And sometimes, choosing to move forward, even while your hands still tremble. No one is forcing you to decide immediately, but discomfort will grow if you insist on standing still, because this energy was never meant to preserve the old state. It exists to make everything honest. Cancer may begin to realize that this discomfort is not a punishment at all. It's like muscle soreness after the body begins to move again following a long period of stillness. Uncomfortable, but necessary. Not weakening you, but preparing you for a new kind of endurance. And through it all, you are not alone. A greater intelligence is watching closely how you choose. Not to judge, but to adjust the flow, so it aligns more truthfully with who you really are. When you allow yourself to step just slightly beyond what is familiar, a new space begins to open. It may not be filled with answers yet, but it is wide enough to breathe more deeply, bright enough to see yourself more clearly, and calm enough to realize that growth does not take away cancer's warmth, but reshapes it into a safer refuge, first for yourself, and then for those you love. And as that space opens, something quietly unusual begins to happen. Not on the outside, but deep within. An old layer of memory is gently touched. Just lightly, but enough for you to realize it has always been there. The wound cancer has carried for so long. Sometimes from early years, sometimes from the first moments of learning how to love and learning how it feels to be hurt. This wound was never loud, never obvious. It hid behind gentleness, behind the habit of caring for others first, behind the constant question of whether you were asking for too much. The fear of being too sensitive once pushed you to try to become strong in ways that never truly belonged to you. The fear that your needs were a burden kept you silent, even when your heart was already full. And the fear of not being tough enough made you doubt whether you could go far in a world that seems to reward only those who are cold and fast. These fears have been there for so long that, at times, you stopped recognizing them as wounds at all and simply called them personality. But now, as the old defenses begin to loosen, that wound is seen in a different light. No longer something to hide. No longer a flaw that needs fixing. It moves to the center of the story, where truth finally has room to speak. And what surprises you most is that you don't collapse when you look at it directly. Instead, there is a deep sense of calm. As if you have finally stopped running from yourself, a powerful support stands behind you now. Mars gives you the strength to act without needing to prove anything. No forcing, no pushing, just doing what needs to be done with a steadiness you haven't felt before. Jupiter is still there, surrounding you, protecting you, reminding you that you are not walking through scarcity. You are being supported, even if the road ahead is not fully visible yet. And between these two forces, the old wound no longer pulls you backward. It begins to change its role. What once made you feel different now becomes the reason you see the world more deeply than others. Sensitivity allows you to notice what others miss. The need for connection helps you build relationships with real depth. And your resistance to rigidity allows you to create safe spaces where people are free to be themselves. The world needs this, even if it doesn't always admit it. Cancer begins to understand that you were never lacking strength. Your strength simply didn't take the shape society usually recognizes. It isn't loud. It doesn't dominate. But it endures. It nurtures. And it carries a quiet power to heal. When that strength is combined with the ability to act in the right kind of protection, it becomes something capable of creating real change. Not only for you, but for everyone who enters your life. This acceptance doesn't arrive as a dramatic breakthrough. It comes slowly, spreading gently like warmth returning to cold hands after a long winter. You don't need to become someone else to be worthy of what is approaching. You only need to stop denying who you truly are. And when that happens, another door quietly opens, not a door back into old pain, but one that leads into a new way of living, a way where you are strong enough to stand your ground, soft enough to keep loving, and trusting enough to begin building something that finally feels like it truly belongs to you. And trusting enough to begin building something that truly belongs to you. Right here, the story quietly shifts. It is no longer about feelings alone or awareness alone. It gently turns toward a very human, very real question. When good things begin to arrive, is your life actually ready to receive them? Not through wishes, but through the shape of the days you are living right now. Luck does not like to wander. It needs a place to land. It needs walls that can hold, a foundation that can support weight, and a mind clear enough to keep everything from spilling away in moments of emotion. For Cancer, this matters deeply. Your heart is wide, but without boundaries, everything passes through too quickly. You have the gift of nurturing, but without structure, you are the first one to become depleted. This moment does not ask for grand gestures. It asks for seriousness. Seriousness with money, no longer avoiding the numbers. Seriousness with time, no longer draining energy into places that give nothing back. Seriousness with yourself, no longer shrinking your value just to keep the peace. From the outside, these changes may look ordinary, but inside they are forming a new container, stronger, deeper, capable of holding what is coming. Cancer's emotions are still there, still rich, still deep. But they no longer drift without direction. They are shaped into motivation, into persistence, into decisions that reach far beyond today. When emotion is placed correctly, it does not weaken you, it becomes fuel. When compassion is paired with discipline, it does not slow you down. It carries you much farther than force ever could. You may notice yourself thinking about the future more often now. Not with worry, but with preparation. Plans that once lived only in your thoughts begin to take on dates and form. Ideas that were postponed start to find their place. At the same time, an old habit begins to loosen its grip. The habit of minimizing yourself, of doubting your worth, of believing you are only meant to stand behind others. These patterns do not disappear overnight, but they no longer hold the controls. This day does not close a chapter. It feels more like standing one step higher than before, looking back at the road you've traveled, and for the first time, feeling no regret. Not because everything was perfect, but because you have grown enough to know you deserve more. No proof required, no permission needed, and as you move forward from here, carrying both heart and structure, both tenderness and resolve, life begins to respond differently. Opportunities arrive not through chaos, but through responsibility. Gifts arrive not to overwhelm you, but to be received calmly. You are no longer standing at the threshold. You are inside now. Inside a new space of your own making, where everything feels wider, deeper, and finally strong enough to be called the life you truly belong to.